Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Games, the only channel brave enough to wholeheartedly welcome our new Sony overlords.
That's right, boy, Bruce. I don't know about you, but man, do I love me some Sony Corp. Num 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 num.
Sony, if you want to hit us up with that fat sellout check, our DMs are wide open. Do it.
Wide open. We threw them open. The doors are big, big enough to back a whole dump truck full of money into. Just shower it on us, please. We're nice to you now.
Sony's rolling in it these days, so we're sure they're going to be sliding just a little bit of that cash, a little bit of that cheese right over here, right, Lawrence? They're going to pay us.
That's right. It's all us, right? We're cheerleading them. That's how it works. People on YouTube say good things, and then suddenly they get money. People on YouTube apparently said a lot of good things. They recently, they being Sony, recently announced their fiscal 2020 results, and it's pretty darn great.
Yeah, that's right. In the last quarter, which stretched from January to March 2021, Sony shipped 3.3 million PlayStation 5s to retailers worldwide. That puts them at 7.8 million consoles sold since last November's launch.
Woo, that's a lot. That's actually a record-setting amount of a lot.
Yeah, NPD analyst Matt Piscatella certified it. At 5 months from launch, the PS5 is the fastest-selling console in the United States ever, both in unit and dollar sales.
Interestingly, it was also Sony Game and Network Services' best year ever. So they've made more money than they ever have before.
Since it has the record, it obviously means that it's outselling the Xbox Series consoles.
Oh, kablamo! Boom! Eat it, you X-butt, Halo, IQ idiots! You don't play a good console.
Micros suck, right? Man, I love stupid console war and name calling. It's the best.
So in the interest of supporting silly console rivalries, we'd love to give you an exact score, get it on the scoreboard to show you the exact number of consoles sold and have us a good, console knife fight. But Microsoft doesn't report console units sold, dating all the way back to 2015. They just stopped.
But that never has, and won't now stop us from doing some clown math to make comparisons anyways. That'll wait until later. We'll get there.
Yeah, we got to give people what they came for, though. We got to get a little blood on the mats there, get the juice flowing.
Unfortunately, we got to dry up for a bit, but only a bit. Back to the PlayStation 5. The sales results are interesting, considering the console's still very difficult to find owing to consumer demand and COVID-related manufacturing shortages.
Yeah, StockX prices are still 60% over retail, which it's a loose measurement, but it indicates that supply is still very far away from demand.
Yeah, that's bad news if you're trying to actually buy one, like I'm sure a lot of our audience is. Pretty good news for Sony, though. It means they can actually forecast every single PlayStation 5 they make, they will also sell, which is probably handy when it comes to dealing with retailers.
And if you're Team PlayStation, you can tuck yourself into bed at night, all snug and comfy in the reassurance that your platform is in the sales lead, and it has tons of momentum and demand at its back.
Lawrence, give him that smug face. Give him that Sony smug face. But it can't all be fun games and dumb console war bullshit.
But it actually literally is all fun and games since we're talking about financial results from gaming companies. But yes, time to get just a teensy bit more adult and look at Sony's revenues as a whole company.
Yeah, we'll compare to Xbox in a second. It'll just take a bit more setting up to get there.
Sony's games unit brought in 24.4 billion units in flat revenue and had an operating income of 3.15 billion in fiscal 2020. So if you're looking at this particular slide you're seeing right now and wondering why those revenues numbers are different, this is in billions of yen, but we've converted it to US dollars since, we're burger chugging Americans around these parts.
These results represent a 34% growth of revenue and 44% growth of operating income compared to the previous year.
Games industry commentator Dom's Playing remarked that Sony's, quote, gaming unit represents 30% of total sales and 35% of operating income. PlayStation is its leading segment by a large margin.
Sony commented that their outrageous swell in revenue is attributable to game software sales and PlayStation Plus, which is not the hugest shocker.
Amusingly, they also note that income took a ding due to the PS5 selling at a loss, and the general costs of just launching a console, just administrative and logistic costs. Even despite all that, they're still up 44%. Absolutely crazy.
Long story short, Sony has ass loads of cash and they're selling dick loads of PlayStation 5s.
Yeah, and you know what that means, Bruce?
What?
Oh, the old Xbox, so standing alone, it doesn't have Halo, can't sell to you never.
Joking aside, Microsoft isn't doing poorly. Nobody in consumer electronics and gaming is doing poorly right now in general, but Microsoft's doing pretty damn great.
Now we're going to talk about Microsoft numbers, which are weird because like we said before, they don't report hardware unit sales. They kind of basically say they're just above that noise.
So they insist that the Xbox division is not about how many Xboxes they sell, but more about broadening access to the Xbox ecosystem. Service rather than hardware.
You can interpret that as that they're just sore losers and are trying to scrape out positive metrics for their reports. But I mean, even if that is the case, I think that their approach is still smart business. Theoretically, it means you can claim every PC and phone as an Xbox, provided that, people are down with the whole streaming thing.
Anyway, that's why we got to get clowny when it comes to the numbers in a bit.
Here's another thing that makes it difficult is their reporting is not on the same schedule as Sony. Microsoft just released their Q3 2021 results, so we can't compare annual results because the years are offset. Microsoft is not on a calendar year financially. But, again, that's not going to stop us.
Microsoft reported that the Xbox Content and Services division increased their revenue by 34%. Growth they attribute to third-party and first-party software sales, as well as, you're probably waiting for this, Game Pass.
Yeah, Game Pass. They also boasted that their gaming revenue increased by 50%, and their hardware sales grew 232% compared to the same quarter last year.
But, Lawrence, there's no actual dollar amounts here, so what are we doing?
No, there are not. Microsoft didn't report revenue numbers broken out by its specific divisions. They just reported revenue as a whole company, and then the rest were listed as percentage growths over last year.
They are making it really difficult to say who's winning and losing, and that's what I demand!
But luckily, we have some analyst numbers to play with.
Working with the 50% increase figure, Dom's Playing claims $3.52 billion in revenue for this quarter.
If that is true, and it's just one step away from an actual number, that's significantly less than the $6.06 billion Sony brought in during the same quarter.
So even though this was Xbox's best Q3 result ever, according to Dom's Playing, it's still 58% of PlayStation's revenue.
That's an interesting mix of results, and one that's if you want to get scrappy, it gets a little hard to declare a winner. Microsoft is growing at a record pace, but Sony still got the size, the heft, the money.
Let's bring it full circle, come back to the reason for the warring, those console unit sales.
Percentage growth is the only hard figure Microsoft gave us. Hardware sales grew 232% in the last quarter.
All right, so let's compare PlayStation brand sales and see who wins there. Or to put it another way, who grew more in the last quarter?
So in Q4 2020, Sony sold 3.3 million PS5s and 1 million PS4s. That means in that quarter, they sold 4.3 million PlayStation family units in Q4 2020.
Let's roll it back a year. According to Sony Reconsidered, Sony shipped 1.5 million PS4s in Q4 2019, the year before they launched the PlayStation 5.
So that means that PlayStation consoles went from 1.5 million unit sales in Q4 2019 to 4.3 million unit sales in Q4 2020, representing a 186% increase in sales.
Oh my, 232% for Xbox. Add to the 186%. Xbox wins. Xbox wins.
Oh, you guys don't get to play Elder Scrolls. Sucks to be you.
All right, we can do better. We'll go a little deeper here. Let's try to estimate actual unit sales for Xbox Series consoles.
That's right. We need the number. Back in February, analysts from Ampere guessed that Xbox Series sales were in line with the Xbox One sales.
All right. If that analyst was correct at the time, they're just guessing, by the way. Obviously, they're probably doing some clown math of their own. And we assume that the same ratio of PlayStations to Xboxes have continued to sell. That would mean the Xbox Series line has sold roughly 5.2 million so far.
Okay, so that's 2 layers of clown math deep. That's an assumption based on an assumption based on an estimate. But still, 5.2 million Xboxes to 7.8 million PlayStations.
And there you have it. Sony's still the biggest boy on the block, which we all knew, but Xbox is making up some serious ground and outgrowing them in key areas, actually.
That's neat, right? Cool. So mixed results, but everyone has something to take home. A little trophy here, a little trophy there. Sony's is obviously the biggest, because yeah. So that'll do it for this episode of Inside Games.
Hey, have a great night. Wait a minute, hold on. What with the Switch?
A new warrior has entered the ring.
So yeah, while the slap fight between Xbox and PlayStation is fun to observe, Nintendo is still out there just drowning in money. Good God.
NPD analyst Matt Piscatella just lays it all out. Quote, Nintendo Switch was the best-selling hardware platform in both units and dollars during the month of March. In the first quarter, Nintendo Switch was the unit sales leader, while PlayStation 5 ranked first in hardware dollar sales.
Quick FYI about that data. The NPD only reports on retail unit sales in the United States. So it's possible that doesn't apply to worldwide markets, but the US is kind of lead market, so.
Regardless, the results make sense. Since the Switch outsold the PS5 in terms of units, that means it sold more than 3.3 million units last quarter. That's the number we got earlier in the episode.
It does make you wonder, though, would we still be seeing those results if the PS5 weren't so supply constrained? If there were infinite PS5s on the market, the PS5 would likely dominate every metric we have.
Unfortunately, we do not have much else to work with right now because Nintendo hasn't announced their fiscal 2020 results yet. That happens actually next week on May 6th.
It should be pretty fun as far as fiscal results can be. This was a really interesting year.
Animal Crossing New Horizons launched in this fiscal year, and Switch sales have been going bananas. I remember back in March 2020, April 2020, you couldn't even buy a fucking Switch. They were gone. So who knows exactly how much Nintendo's raked in?
Since they're covering the past year, maybe we'll also get some kind of acknowledgement that there's a new hardware iteration of Switch on the horizon? Maybe?
Either way, we wanted to try and compare Nintendo's recent performance, but they made that difficult too. Their last quarterly report was for the 9 months leading up to that quarter, which means the data is specifically impossible to compare, unless we manually add up 3 quarters for Microsoft and Sony, and even our courageous games journalism has limits.
And that's the interesting thing that I've noticed digging through investment reports is there's very little consistency between how independent companies talk to their investors, which is good because it gives us something to do, you know?
According to AP News, they're forecasting $3.8 billion in profit for Nintendo, which itself is a revision up from $2.9 billion.
Yeah, that's profit, not sales. That's the money they get to take home, and that would put their bankroll, their take home, above even Sony, who booked $3.15 billion in profits last fiscal.
Again, Nintendo's in the zone right now. They're able to make it sell hardware without constraint, kind of, and have titles that were natural pairings with the pandemic. It worked out perfect.
Just to catch up with the latest numbers, the Switch is at 79.87 million units, but remember, the PlayStation 5 is selling faster now than the Switch was when it launched back in 2017. So 5 years from now, PlayStation 5 may outsell Switch. Who can say?
And the Switch was also supply constrained. There's a lot of factors here that it's just really interesting. And I think the reason these companies don't report all the same is because of what we're doing. They don't want to compare to each other. So I think they try and obscure the numbers a little bit.
I think so. And the goal of any investor report is to make the investors happy. So you're going to dig through and find the metrics that make your company seem like it's worth investing in, which is usually growth. It's not necessarily we took home this fat stack, although if you have a fat stack, you might as well brag about it. But I think usually what they try to put forward in front of investors, especially Microsoft, is just showing how much better their business is doing right now compared to where it was, and that it will continue to grow.
Long story short, Sony, rich. What about Nintendo, Lawrence?
Oh, rich.
What about Microsoft?
Hey, growing, but they're also rich as shit. Let's be real, man. It's like billions and billions of dollars. Come on.
Look, us gamers, we made them rich during the pandemic, just like a lot of other people who became gamers during the pandemic.
That's right. I mean, yeah, world circumstances have pushed a lot of money towards gaming companies, so now it's time to share a little bit of that back. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say, here's the one thing, Lawrence, that I've learned about this episode: us gamers control the world.
Yeah. Now pay us.